Hello. It is 12. Sorry, Andy.
No, you needn't apologize to me.
It is 12:45. This is a special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. And I'm going to get the right agenda open here. We are meeting today to discuss childcare facility development in Clear Creek County. Prior to that, we'll do some public comment. And just reading through this. Okay, and it looks like the team's all here. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. I understand we do have a couple of folks here. And so why don't we start with just sort of flipping a coin here. We can start with Kelly. Kelly, if you would unmute yourself and say what your name is and where you live, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Okay, I appreciate it. Actually, I was hoping to go after Mike Raber, but I can go first. My name is Kelly Garrett. Live in Jefferson County, kind of on the border of Clear Creek. Two things. First of all, I want to know that your good deeds don't go unnoticed. And I'm a regular rider of Squaw Pass Road, bicycle rider. And the improvements you made and the maintenance you do on them are really wonderful. So I really appreciate and applaud your efforts there. So thank you very, very, very much. What Mike wanted me to talk on, I reached out to Mike earlier this week. I ride it usually once, twice a week. There's a car that has been there almost every time. It's a Jeep Cherokee. And he seems to want to run down riders. And I've had 3 encounters with him so far this year. My last encounter was on Tuesday, which is the time I reached out to Mike. I've got him on video. I've got his license plate number. I have reported it to the state patrol, but it's just getting very uncomfortable. On Tuesday, he got within about 3 inches, or about within inches of me. I can't tell you exactly how far. I could feel the breeze on his car, definitely within the 3-foot region. But he seems to be intentional. I've got video cameras on my bike. You can see as he's coming over, he actually goes over to the light to try to make himself more closer to the bikes. One other comment on this, and then I'll shut up. I also ride with another couple, and they say they've been having the same experiences with this driver. So it's not just me. This guy's a regular nuisance on the road. And I would call an aggressive driver that's intentionally trying to make it worse. Anyway, that's my comment. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you much.
Thank you for your comment, Kelly. And we sometimes choose to engage during public comment. Why don't we go ahead and hear from Mr. Raber, assuming he's here to talk about the same topic?
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Michael, thank you. If you could just state your name and where you live, and we'll give you 3 minutes.
Yeah, Michael Raber, and I live in Echo Hills, up 103. And the comment I have, it just echoes what Kelly's saying. I would say over the last month, there's been an unusual amount of aggressive driving, not only on 103, but quite frankly, everywhere in Clear Creek County. And as you know, down in Jefferson County, where 3 people, a lady, Gwen Inglis, who is 47 years old, national champion bicycle racer, was killed by a driver who came into the bike lane. Then there was a 12-year-old boy who was killed down in the neighborhood of Ken Carroll and Sims Street. And then there was another 6-year-old who was killed up toward the Boulder area. Anyway, what this gets into is we're concerned about the illegal and dangerous buzzing and driving that's been going on. And my question is, if you can offer some advice on how best to handle this rash of incidences. And, you know, all of us, a lot of us are riding with cameras now. I had an incident a week ago Monday when I brought up our senior group, 10 of us riding. And we encounter a car, and I've got it on video. It's a Chevy SUV, dark gray, dents on the driver's side fender and the license plate. And since the Scott Lancaster Bridge is closed, and we're on the dirt on what is the Greenway Trail, in that little section between the Scott Lancaster parking lot and where it turns to pavement again. And we meet two vehicles. The first one is very polite, just goes by, no incident. The second one, the Chevy, the guy is yelling profanities out the window, just as upset as he can be. Every word started with F and then a couple more. And we were doing everything in accordance to the Colorado best practices on bicycling. And, you know, I brought these guys up. Two of them are former teachers in Clear Creek County. We only do Clear Creek County about twice a year because of stuff like this. And this is outrageous. And I'm more than happy to turn over the video I've got. Kelly can turn over the video he's got. But we'd like to think that you guys can help. And I know all three of you ride bicycles. So I'd like to think that you could help brainstorm with us on better ways because we're defenseless out there, but better ways to reel some of this in, even if it's having the Jefferson County, or excuse me, the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Department go out there and just pay a visit and say, look, not only is this behavior unacceptable, but it's illegal and it's dangerous. And, you know, and then the same thing, I'm coming back from this ride. And I mean, we come up there and we have coffee and lunch and the whole thing. And these are people you want up in Clear Creek County. All of us are retired and all of us are polite. But so I'm coming back and we're on the bridge to cross over out of Idaho Springs to go back to the bikeway again to the right there by the softball fields. And some guy in a pickup truck follows me around the curve to where we go down and then exit to get onto the frontage road, laying on his horn. And I don't know if he was trying to warn me that that was turning into I-70 and I shouldn't be there in his mind, but that's the bikeway. That's how we get there. So even some signage that can be put up along there saying, you know, bikeway or, you know, something more visible, because there's nothing on that bridge. It's becoming a real problem. And when we had 3 people killed in Jefferson County on one day on bicycles, all of whom knew what they were doing, that's just really ominous for what's going on in Clear Creek and what it may evolve into. So whatever ideas you have, and Kelly and I would be more than happy and to share our video with you if it makes a difference, because it definitely identifies who the culprits are as of this last week. That's it.
Thank you for that, Mr. Raber. And I will note, and you're probably aware of this, that the sheriff does law enforcement and sets policy and priorities. Maybe in response, I'd encourage you to reach out to him. And then in general, I think I can speak for all 3 of us that we don't, you know, condone that behavior and are interested in what we can do to curb it. Randy, Sean, I don't want to silence you two. I do want to get to the subject matter on the agenda because I know we have a limited time.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it exactly right. I would say, Kelly and Mike, talk to the sheriff and submit your evidence to his team, because we don't have any law enforcement authority. This board doesn't. But I appreciate you hearing about it and knowing about it for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just say that it's not a new problem this year. I've had it, you know, I've experienced similar things. I've had people try to grab my handlebars and pull me down back in the 70s when I would be outside the white solid line on my 12 inches of pavement that I had going up 103. You know, strange things happen and people cross the lines. I think it's probably worse right now. I mean, everyone has noticed, not just the cyclists, but the level of angst over the last year. I mean, the amount of people that have responded in ways that are less than cooperative with their fellow citizens is, so I can imagine it's spilled over into the road biking community too in that area. But you know, we might think about down the road, you know, aiding and abetting with education or something like that on our site if there's good messaging. But again, I agree with George. That's about as much time as we can spend talking about it today. We got another subject. So.
Okay, and thank you.
Board, what I can do is I'll send the sheriff an email. Usually he attends these meetings, but I don't see him on here today. But I will send the sheriff an email just letting him know that Mike, you and Kelly brought up this concern today, and it'll kind of give him a heads up, expecting communication from you all to the sheriff. So I'll do that here in a few minutes.
Super. Thank you, Keith.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Raber and Mr. Garrett. It's an important conversation. So the next thing on the agenda is to discuss childcare facility development. I think we're all aware there's a community group that's working on childcare. They've toured a couple of our facilities, and they're here to talk to us about how we might be able to help get childcare facilities in Clear Creek County. I'm not sure exactly who I'm handing this to, if it's Becky or Sarah.
To both of us.
Okay, take it
We're
away.
going to partner up today. Thank you so much for meeting with us today, putting together this meeting. We're so grateful. I just wanted to give you a little background on who we are and how we got going on this. And then just talk to you about what we've been doing and what some of our needs are. And so again, so thankful to have to be able to meet with you today. So we have Sarah Casano with us. So we have had some recent conversations. Hi, Sarah. I've never met Sarah in person, so I'm super excited to meet you today. And we also, I believe, have Tiffany Stout on the phone, who is one of the licensing specialists for Red Rocks Child Care Innovation. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the background of why we need childcare in Clear Creek. I think, we know, and you mentioned this the other day, just we know it's a need. But I did want to let you know that with Beth Luther and the school district and some other folks in town, we found out we're thinking about doing infant toddler care. So how could the district do that? And then the community is looking to do that. And so we put together this little grassroots team, and it may be small, but it is a mighty group. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about who we have working with us. So obviously Beth has been part of our group. I represent the school district. I'm really a facilitator. I'm not the expert on early care and education, but I surrounded myself with experts. So for that, I'm grateful. So we have Julia Brink, who is the manager for the Child Care Innovation at Red Rocks Community College. She's part of our triad, Early Childhood Council, along with Tiffany Stout, Stephen Bell, and Carmen Martinez. They all manage all the licensing and workforce development for securing a licensed childcare. And these are the folks who are the experts on facilities and how do we get licensed and how do we train our folks. And they're all out of the Innovation Center. Then Rose Morris and Cameron Marlin from CCMRD are part of our group. Liesl Von Duke, she's from GCMH. So we wanted to make sure we had some mental health representation. So she does early childhood mental health. Stephanie McCauley from the Department of Human Services. And then Lori Beckel is our one of our community care experts. And you may have met some or all of these people, but I have to tell you, this is a hard-working group, and I'm very thankful. And then Sarah and I have recently touched base about early care needs in the county. And so I'm so happy to have her with me today. And we'll be hearing from her. And then also Tiffany Stout is on the phone. So I did send in some slides, so you may have those accessible to you. So I don't want to, I don't want to spend time reading off of them, but I think, we've heard that Clear Creek is a childcare desert. We have a community that has very limited access to quality childcare. I'm going to talk about, this is what some of the reasons are why we pulled this group together. So we've heard from families all over. We need infant toddler care. We need more early care. I think when you think about that, the school district is one of the largest employers in the county. Our teachers and our staff need some early care, and that's a retention issue for us to retain staff by not having childcare for our workforce. And then, in addition to need in the community, need for employers to be able to retain staff. We know there's so much research out there on early learning and the significant importance for that. And actually, it's a big issue across the state. There's a new bill out to unify early childhood and develop a new department so that the collaborators are not all working in silos, but working together. And it's possible Tiffany might have something she wants to add to that. I just saw her highlight. And Stephanie McCauley put some notes in just to remind us that we only have two in county, two licensed providers, Kids Corner at the Rec Center and Georgetown Community School. And that for toddlers, a lot of our families that take advantage of CCAP, which is, I think you all know, an assistance for those who need help with financially for childcare. They have to go to neighboring communities to get infant toddler care. So what we do know is that our demand exceeds our available childcare. I think you mentioned this the other day, the root needs policy, the policy needs assessment that was done in 2019 very clearly outlined the need for childcare. The other thing is with universal preschool coming, we are having to do expansion for preschools in the county, which the district is doing at King Murphy, expanding to a large center. However, we don't have a year-round preschool. And so that is one of the offerings we'd like to have, is not just those who are seeking early instruction, but those who really need early instruction and year-round daycare for that age student prior to school age. Another thing we know is we have very few options for sites, locations in the county for us to develop out. And we do know, this is a positive, we do know that we have a strong commitment to collaborate as a community around this topic. And we are determined to continue moving forward and figure out how we get early learning and early care in the district. So I just want to give you an update of what we've done so far. And anytime you have questions, don't hesitate to pop in. I'm kind of plowing through this so we have time to chat and answer questions. So as a group, we developed a goal. And our goal is to open a nonprofit childcare center in Clear Creek County for infants, toddlers in year-round preschool. And our goal is fall of 2022. Really like to see that get started by then. So as a group, we developed subcommittees. I'm a fan of teaming. And so we have 3 strategy teams that we've built, a funding and finance group that Lori Beckel heads up, facility and licensing that Tiffany Stout leads, and then workforce development that Rose Morris leads. On one of the slides, I put the funding and fiscal sponsorship in there, so you'd have an idea of where we are now with our funding. So Lori has worked diligently, Lori and I working to get fiscal sponsorship for our nonprofit, and we are this close to getting final, but our pre-application with CNDC, which is the Colorado Nonprofit Development Center, which funds, which supports fiscally as fiscal sponsors, those of us who are looking to develop some nonprofit, but not ready to roll that way solo. So we're looking to work with them, and we should have a response to our proposal very soon to find out if they're going to continue, if they're going to support us with that. We have had conversations with the Buell Foundation. What's nice about the Buell Foundation is that could be some capital funds for building development. And then we will be able to seek a grant for emerging and expanding childcare. That is a reimbursement grant. So we have to have some additional funds for outlay at the beginning, and then we can get up to $50,000 reimbursed for that. In the meantime, we are looking at a number of other options for funding. We all know it takes a lot to get something started and to get it rolling. So that's just a very brief look at where we are with our current funding. We do have a partnership developing with Boomers Leading Change. I don't know if you've heard of that group. Excuse me, they're based out of Denver, and essentially it's folks in my age group and beyond that are considered baby boomers. And I haven't joined the retirement ranks yet, but hopefully soon. But anyway, these are retired folks that take their expertise and offer support and as a volunteer for organizations, nonprofits who are looking to develop new initiatives, and we need sometimes some outside expertise. And so we have asked for some financial gurus and architecture construction background to give us some advice, since no one on our crew are experts in those areas. And then Lori added a note to talk about a public-private partnership with private donors receiving a 20% tax credit on Colorado taxes through the Enterprise Zone program. That's a little bit about our financial background. So, Sarah, did you want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you had talked about, why the need for early care?
Sure, and I wonder, Beth, can I share the slides? Sometimes I think it's just a little bit more impactful. Is that?
I think you should
Oh, I
be
see
able
it.
to. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Okay, can you guys see it? Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to pull some research on, thankfully we don't have a long history of child fatalities in Clear Creek County. So just in looking at Colorado in general and child welfare in Colorado, in 2018, there were 77 child fatalities that the state child fatality review team looked at that were a result of child abuse and neglect. So we knew that 30% of those fatalities were with children under the age of 1, and 66% were 3 or younger. And then when we looked at senior fatalities, 42% of those kids were under the age of 1, and 68% were under the age of 3. So in doing that research, when CDHS did that research, the biggest recommendation that came for prevention, for preventing these fatalities and near fatalities, was quality, affordable childcare. So when we look at the years between 2013 and 2017, they were able to see that approximately 223 children there may not have been a fatality if those families would have had access to affordable childcare. So I was really excited to hear that there was already a group of people working in Clear Creek County on childcare, because I was working on our prevention grant that's due at the end of this month, and really just looking at the needs in our community and wanted to start talking about a childcare facility. So I was excited to join up with Becky and her team and looking at how can our department apply for a grant that can help support childcare in Clear Creek County. So obviously our department is invested in childcare just from a prevention perspective. If we can prevent even one fatality in Clear Creek County, then I think we have an obligation to really all work together to create a childcare facility that's not just affordable, but that's high quality. So I was excited that you all could meet today, because I think from my perspective, one of the biggest pieces in that is, how do we make childcare affordable and high quality? And I think the biggest piece is having a facility that we could provide rent-free to a childcare agency for those first, maybe 5 to 10 years until the agency really got up and running. And so I would love to see us talk about the resource center and the county maintaining the resource center and providing that as a free space for the childcare facility.
One of the reasons we wanted to bring up the location in this meeting is that in order for us to even apply for a license, we have to have an address. We have to have a building location. And we will also struggle with getting grants without a location as well. And I'm going to ask Tiffany if at any point you want to interject in this conversation, please do. And so 2 buildings, Tiffany's team went and looked at a variety of buildings. And one thing I will say is that the district would be very willing to host a childcare center. However, as you all know, we are in the process of figuring out what to do with a couple of our buildings and how we're going to be able to move forward. And if we do move forward with some reconstruction, it will take us some time to have a place available and build an early learning center. So we're very open to offering spaces for people in our building. We have 3 different private groups who work, are actually 4 when I think about this. The 4-H group also uses our building, along with Mountain Youth Network. And we had hosted Graham Construction, and then we also have emergency management folks using some of our space. So we're very open to hosting friends in our building. However, we just don't feel like we have availability to do that until we're settled on where our properties, what we're going to do with our properties. So I just want to put that out there. So we're not looking for a long term, we're looking for a shorter term. And so Tiffany and her crew took some look throughs, not only our buildings, but also the resource center there in town and the LDS building. And of the 2, they felt like one of the best options would be the resource center. We're looking to put in 1 infant room, a large toddler room that could be split in half. So a good number of students there, and then a pre-K year-round classroom. We need a space where we can add a playground. We have to have some outdoor play areas. And when they looked at the building, they felt like that it would be one of the easiest shifts for construction in a rebuild. So that is one thing. And as Sarah mentioned, we're looking for a way to provide some low-cost childcare. So I will say that our preschools and our schools remain some of the lowest tuition-based preschools in the state. We haven't really looked at increasing our tuition. We have to at least break even. And we're always looking for ways to keep our preschools open and running. But we don't offer year round. So that doesn't meet some of our families' needs. But we also know that our families may not be able to pay the high costs of the one facility we have, or some of the nearby facilities. It's extremely high cost. Sarah has some statistics on that, and we want, and based on a conversation on the debrief from the online work fair, job fair, we're still needing some employees in our county, and we need some affordable care for the folks who are already here and those who may join us. So that's affordable quality care is what we're looking for, but we also need a location. And so those were just 2 we looked at. If you have other thoughts or ideas, we certainly would be open. And the thing about our group is we need support from our whole community, including perhaps even our county government, our county facilities, because none of us by alone can really pull this off. And so we're just looking for your thoughts, considerations about our needs, and we certainly would love to partner and collaborate on this. So that and then the other, the last 2 steps that we're of our next steps are we're going to continue to, we have to continue to develop our funding, continue working on development there. And then the second piece is thinking about how will we staff it, workforce, and developing our workforce. And so that team is working very closely with the Red Rocks Child Care Innovation Team. There are pathways to train the staff that we need that don't require a college degree. And so there are pathways for people to go. The other thing I wanted to mention is that is also an area that our high school can participate in. Our students, we have several students who are interested in early childhood, but through our partnership with Red Rocks, we can help those students through an internship program develop the training that they need in order to be a licensed provider. So we're going to continue to look at ways to grow our own workforce in our county through our supports with the Innovation Center and with the school district.
Okay. Thank you for all of that. I wonder if Tiffany has anything to add, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So I wonder, I hope people can hear me. I'm sitting in my car at the park. I was between, I was in the field this morning, but it was important to me to call in to this. So if I can talk about the resource center just a little bit, it has quite a bit of plumbing already installed. So that would be, save, some money there as far as it just being practical. That's kind of why we were thinking about the resource center. Obviously, parking's kind of could be a dilemma that I was thinking about, but there's always ways to think about things creatively. So, the church would also be viable. I wondered if the commissioners had any other ideas as far as buildings. I'd be happy to come up and look, but I guess in the interest of all the funding that's out there right now, that's kind of why we're trying to at least identify an address and submit an application and get things going in order to take advantage of some of these funding opportunities.
Thank you. So Randy, Sean, who wants to take a crack at this?
I just have a really basic question. And thanks for all the hard work and the volunteerism. It's great that a group of committed people wanted to collaborate, and it sounds like you guys have made a lot of progress. When it comes to applying for grants or entering into contracts, have you guys achieved your nonprofit status, or what is your kind of organization or corporate structure that would allow you to enter into contracts?
So that is where the Colorado Nonprofit Development Center, they would be our fiscal sponsor to start with for the nonprofit status. They support nonprofit programs, and they would be the body that would be supporting our contracts. And I wish Lori was able to be here today because Sean, I'm not a finance person. And to answer your question, we're looking at that group. I put a link in the presentation so you could take a look at them. We made it through the pre-approval. Lori has a meeting shortly with them to move to, we have to have program manager approval, and we're very close to that. That group would be our initial financial and fiscal sponsors to start with, and then eventually we would look to moving to developing our own nonprofit.
Yeah, and I don't know as much about it as maybe you think I do, but my understanding of those type of things are you can use them to help raise money. I don't know that you could use them to essentially accept liability and be your operational arm. So I think that's probably a pretty key thing to. There's probably a lot of things that you're not going to be able to do until you get past that.
Right, and that is the group that will do that. That's part of our agreement with them is they do provide that type of support. So if you look at the website too, it will be a little bit more clarifying. So we have used Community First, and really literally they're working as our bank for nonprofit, and that's all we use them for, because we maintain our own internal liability for all of those things. But this particular group, there is fees associated with that, but they do support that.
When you say
For
you,
us, is my
when you-
understanding.
when you say you maintain liability, does that mean you have liability insurance, or you do have, and if you do, under what auspices or entity do you have that? Just following up on John's question. First of all, let me say I'm not asking these questions as a challenge at all. They're only just trying to understand the structure you have in place now. And so I'm just trying to wrap my head around if your fiscal agent or that is proposing to carry that liability for you in the interim until you achieve your own status, or if you've actually achieved that ability to get that.
That is my understanding, that they will do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to move forward. What I'd like to do is shake down some of your questions, and then I think our committee folks, there's a reason I'm not leading the finance committee, and I will have them answer questions for you around that.
And I might just add on that topic, I do have some experience in nonprofit development, familiar with the concept of fiscal sponsorship. It's basically an organization doing all the organizational things that an organization needs to do, like books and carrying liability and all that stuff. So I think maybe we can proceed with the conversation with the knowledge that, we need to get to a fiscal sponsorship. We need to have an entity that we can sign contracts with if we were going to do anything.
Right.
Yeah, probably something Peter could track down pretty easily. I had one other question, and I think I'm probably good with my questions. 2022 fall, I think is, it's going to be here before you know it. When it does seem like in some respects, for probably obvious reasons, the school district is a better long-term solution, because that's where all the kids are, for one thing.
Mhm.
What are the time constraints with making the school district? Because kind of what I'm wondering is you mentioned it was a temporary thing, like maybe we could give you a $1 a year lease or something like that. But what is the length of the proposed short-term solution that we're talking about?
Well, it just so happens I happen to have Mitch Houston in the room, and so I'm going to have him answer that question. He's so thrilled I'm picking on him.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for the question. I think I heard you ask how long until the school district will have a facility that can function for infant and toddler rather.
Yeah.
And if the bond were to be successful in November of this year, we were probably 18 to 36 months away from having an open facility.
Okay, so not too long, but not 6 months.
Not too long, and at this time, we haven't identified the funds to finish that facility. We've identified the funds as part of the bond to clean it up, do any mitigation that's necessary, and be ready to, if you excuse the term, do tenant finish.
Yep.
So you're looking at 2 to 4 year range, something like that.
One and a half to 3.
Well, I'm saying it's 6 months till the election.
Okay, good. I'll accept your number.
And I was rounding off. Yeah.
Anybody else want to take shots at me while I'm here?
That wasn't a shot. I was just doing grade school math, dude.
Yeah, I want to talk about your hairstyle. Just kidding.
Yeah.
At least I have hair.
Yeah, I know. Look at this. Look at this. John is aging me.
He's got an artsy look to him right now today. I think it's impressive.
Anyway, I think that sounds reasonable in terms of timelines. I know that this board has, and the county organization has long speculated that when the resource center becomes vacant, we would put it on the market. Just speaking for myself, I think that it's entirely acceptable to strike while the iron's hot on childcare, on one of the a key need in this community historically and a key element of recovery. And I'll just point out to folks in our survey results yesterday, maybe the thing that sticks with me the most in terms of a result that we need to improve is that we're below the state average in people who think this is a good place to raise a family. We're also below the state average in people who think that this is a good place to work. Childcare can address both of those. It's not going to fix the problem, but it can address both of those. And so, you know, I'm comfortable with us moving forward with asking our staff to explore this. I don't know. I mean, I guess we can talk more about what the next steps really need to be to enable this to happen.
What do you mean by enable to happen? What are we enabling for specifically?
To enable us to do a very low cost lease to this organization to provide childcare in that facility. I mean, one of the next steps would clearly be to, you know, maybe allow for a facilities assessment to take place and authorize staff to enter into negotiations, start building the terms of a lease to bring to us for, you know, a final decision.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
I do too. First of all, I'm very supportive of the idea. It's not just for COVID recovery, but it's an ongoing problem that exists everywhere, and it's pre-COVID, and the ability for example, for single parents or parents who work in an economic environment where the wages are low enough that it requires full-time work by both parents to sustain a family. Childcare is a critical element. And we saw what struck me is that the primary, granted, there's schools out there for about 9 months of the year, but when you look at the statistics on the welfare, meaning the safety and welfare of children 3 years old and down that was just presented to us, it's clear that it's a really important need when you leave the community without that ability for those folks. And it's one of the reasons that some people choose not to work and instead and use other forms of welfare anyways, because they are because the cost of childcare is almost greater than what they can make. And so this is a tremendously enabling thing, and I'm for it. I guess the idea would be to cross the T's and dot the I's with our staff and look into the questions about, you know, liability and all that kind of stuff that goes with it, and just make sure that's done. And then the idea is somehow we may want to memorialize that this is that our ultimate goal down the road was to liquidate probably this property. And so it could potentially be liquidated to a group like this over the long haul, or that this understanding that this group dysfunction, its intent is within a given period of time to you know, to move to that other facility that would be even better than this one, or whatever the plan is as we go down the road. Somehow I think we should memorialize that that's the long range goal. And it's a short range solution that could turn into a long range solution under different circumstances as they evolve. But
one question I have too, and I'm sure one of your committees is already working on this, is one of the things I'm always concerned about when I think about partnering is financial viability and sustainability. And I'm sure one of the things you guys are working on is some kind of a business plan, for lack of a better word, that talks about how much, what the revenue model is, if there's a sliding scale to make it affordable for certain types of clients, and also just, again, a model that you guys aren't going to be bankrupt in 18 months and having that conversation.
So I'm nodding my head. Yes, absolutely. When I mentioned the boomers leading change, one of the things was to, you know, see if we could find someone to support us with that. I think no matter what, we would do it. You know, we will have a business plan. Sustainability is, you know, in education, we live that every day, all the time, thinking about as we do initiatives, how will we sustain that long term? The last thing, and even in our current preschools, we have to continuously be thinking about sustainability and how we how we move forward with keeping those open. So absolutely. If you have a specific, need for us to have a developed business plan, certainly we could move forward with that. We're still in the early stages. We've been meeting as a group for about 6 months. So, it's still early on, and just the thought that you're asking this question is very encouraging. And yes, we will be.
Yeah, and I'm honestly asking it probably more as from a paternalistic perspective, because it's something that you absolutely need. And it's something that funders and grants, people who are supplying grant money are going to want to see, and they're going to, and so the sooner you get on top of that.
Absolutely.
And what I
Yeah,
heard,
I would just, yeah. I'm sorry, it's Tiffany. I was going to say that's the next step. So it's kind of a step by step. And as soon as we can identify where we're going, then that would be the next thing right on the list. Absolutely.
and I think that what I heard Sean saying was that he cares about this function and wants it to succeed. And so he's asking the best questions to make sure that it does. And I would say that it's something that all three of we commissioners care about, and anything we can do to help in those functions, we're, all ears. So.
Thank you.
We're always
Excellent.
looking for something else to do,
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have enough going on. So I think we might have what we need. Are there next steps that we need to discuss and authorize here that we have not? Don't all jump out at once.
I mean, one of the things I think that would make me feel more comfortable is having Pete go figure out, just make sure that we have the ability to legally do this, that they have the right type of a partnership with that third party. I think that's pretty important, obviously. And then I would be fine with staff figuring out some kind of a solution for a couple of years or whatever we think the time frame is, and then I don't think we really need to figure out what happens after that. I think we'll learn as we go.
That sounds about right. And so then, like it's in terms of the next time this board would interact, that would be when we have a lease that staff is comfortable with, we have a partner with the right organizational status. Is there anything else that?
From a public meeting standpoint, the next time that this would end up coming before you, most likely in a public meeting, would be approval of the lease. And that would be it. I'm wondering if Becky and Sarah can send me any of the information that they've compiled and a lot of what they've talked about today, so that I can then take it from there. And we in the county attorney's office will actually move forward with putting a lease together at that point.
Absolutely. We could certainly get you this information, and I didn't bombard you with a number of other documents today, but certainly we have support documents.
That's great.
And obviously we're interested in seeing those things in order to make sure that any agreement we run into that we've done properly as we showed on our end, but also to help you make sure that you've done it right on your end. And toward that end is if this works successfully from that procedural standpoint, and we're able to move forward with this relationship on that property, then there's the next piece, which is how to modify that property to make it work to your satisfaction. And we have skills resident here too that can help you with that. And
that's fantastic.
Thank you so much.
I wonder if Tiffany, I'm sorry. I wonder if the child care licensing application would be helpful too, just what that looks like and the requirements to apply.
Tiffany, I can add that in.
Okay. I'll add it just in case it's helpful.
Perfect. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is Keith. I think Sean's and the board's suggestion relative to a business plan is a very, very good one. I know whenever we are looking at investing resources, we want to know, to the best of our ability anyway, what that looks like, what the budget might look like, what the challenges might be, and the opportunities. But I would really echo what the board was saying about it's not too early to start putting that business plan together.
Okay. Well, I just want to, and I know we're all trying to get back to our days, just want to express some gratefulness and some enthusiasm. The iron seems really hot on childcare right now for us to do something. Oftentimes, it seems like we talk about things and it takes a lot of time to get it through the process. And I think this is an example of, the county government being nimble, being responsive, moving our schedules around to figure out how to get this in. And it's an example of the school district just jumping into every issue and embracing building a great community here, and people on our staff and people in the community. I hope that this is evidence that we're going to move through spending all our ARPA money and this recovery process in this same vein, where we can be nimble, thoughtful, and work well together, and really do some great stuff over the next couple of years.
And just want you to know, both George and I have cordless drills and hammers, and I'm pretty sure Sean does too. So
That's great news. I'm sure we could put you to work.
Yeah, and Randy even knows which direction to point it in.
All right. I can always figure out
like that.
reverse forward. So.
We need some walls to come down, that's for sure.
I have managed to injure myself with a cordless drill. So it's no guarantee.
And just remember, demo is fun. So.
Okay, well, I think, is anything else missing, or are you ready to go?
I just want to say thank you so much for this time with you all today. We're so grateful for that and your offers of support. Your ideas are excellent, and be looking for Peter for some follow-up from me. And then if other questions come along, don't hesitate to, send emails or give us a call, whatever you need. So we're very, very grateful for your time today and your thoughtfulness.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, on that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.